Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Gergen with Muscle D Fitness. I'm sitting here with Brian Llewellyn. We're talking about the new Power Leverage version 2 line. This is something that's been in development, I think, since about February, late January. We were looking through all the needs and requirements of each different piece of equipment, and I think we kind of have a lot of good stuff coming in. What are your, first initial impressions after going through this final line for the first time?
Having been in this business for about 50 years, which is a long time, I'm very young.
Yes, indeed.
So the thing is that everybody's building selectorized machines. There's been free weight machines. There's all kinds of assortments of stuff. But generally speaking, every generation, they really don't get it right. So when we developed this line, it was from the ground up almost. And we saw the frailties of some of the other machines. And all of a sudden we said, we could do better than that. So that's the whole genesis of this whole development process.
Yeah, and then let's start out with just some basics. One of the first things we looked at is, we have the Excel line, which is your more industrial style. And one of the things with this one is this is a lot more like stylish and refined looking. Talk about what you think about the overall style, the refinement of this particular line as we go into launch.
Well, the thing about this line is that this goes back to many, many years, decades for that matter, about trying to incorporate free weights into a machine apparatus. Obviously, with selectorized machines, you have weight stack going up and down, which we do have, excellent machines. But we really wanted to see something that's an advance on the old hammer machines from way long time ago. And that was an advancement in and amongst itself. So what ended up happening is that as we plotted through this, both of us trained. We kind of understand what the biomechanics is supposed to be.
Sure.
We just wanted to make it a little bit more exceptional. And when people sat on it, says, "Well, this is something I've never seen before." That's how this whole evolution came about.
Yep. One of the biggest things about this as we were working through the overall design is the smaller footprint. So a lot of these machines have a little bit of a smaller footprint. We can fit more of them into studios or sections of commercial gyms. For the plate loaded sections or anyone that has some space constraints, some of these pieces, they have a really nice footprint on a really high end piece of equipment that feels good. What do you think the biggest benefit is from a footprint standpoint as we're looking at it?
Well, it's just a matter of economics too, because if you have a 2,000 square foot facility or a 1,000 square foot facility, you really want to be able to train as many people as you can during that prime time, which is usually in the evening or early morning. And if you have just a scant few machines, it's not really what people are looking for.
Yeah.
You want to get it over with because a lot of people aren't going to spend 2 hours in your gym. They might be spending a half hour, 35, 40 minutes. That's one of the things I'd have to credit back to Arthur Jones with Nautilus. He actually devised a system whereby you can one set the failure on each machine, the 10 machines, and out the door. So he made an economic decision. We're kind of not in that bracket because we want the full experience of lifting weights where it even taxes you whether you're a man or a woman, whether it's short or tall.
Sure.
And if those dimensions or those criteria get met, then all of a sudden you have a winner. And I think that's part of it because people, they get kind of burned out on the same old. And they want something new. And we think in this line, the Power Leverage line, we've really incorporated a lot of new changes that are unique and challenging.
Well, and talk about, more than just the same old and having some difference. And then, speaking of a lot of variety and being able to do some different stuff, I think one of the biggest things is there's 31 machines in this line. So customers and gyms can kind of pick and choose between, call it a couple of the specialty pieces like the glute kick, which is kind of unique because it pivots around the hip without including the knee extending, or what I'm calling the most muscular decline fly machine, which is a really kind of a unique way to do your flies into like what I'm going to call the bodybuilding most muscular position, which is kind of fun. And they have options of your more basic like seated row, lat pull down, leg extension, leg curls. So we can kind of, pick and choose, hey, I want these unique pieces, and then we need these like standard pieces for people. And with 31 pieces, they get to choose a lot of that variety and be able to walk through, kind of a lot of different options of a circuit.
Yeah. And then I think with the 31 machines, obviously we had to make some combo machines, both like example, the seated calf machine. Also, we have a tibia selection on it. And that seated calf, by the way, was invented like in the late 60s, early
Sure.
70s by my partner at Muscle Dynamics at the time, Roger Helgeson. And he was actually recommended by Joe Gold.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the genesis of that thing came around. So going back to your point, we wanted to make sure that in that 31 machines, I think we pretty much captured all the possible nuances
Yes.
that you probably can do on the machines. And that's really the highlight of it, because people get bored fast. So when you have an array of machines, particularly if it's a big facility,
Sure.
or you could do something for your chest this way or that way, or your lats or your legs, they like that. They like that variety because it kind of gets stale. And actually, your muscles really stop responding
Yep.
if you do the same old thing without challenging your muscle group. So that's the way it is. And then also, obviously, keep in mind that there are women training now. That didn't used to be 3 or 4 decades ago. Women didn't touch weights to speak of.
Yep.
All of a sudden, they got into it. And now with the flexibility of this line, power leverage line, there's a lot of nuances for women as well as men, and people tall, people short, without having too many adjustments on the machines. I think that's it. It's got to be simple, and these are simple and they're very effective.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And I'm going to go back to the glute kick machine. There are no adjustments.
Right.
You get in there and you position your body however you want. Most of the machines, it's a simple seat adjustment or a simple angle adjustment like on the leg press. And we can get into a lot of really nice, easy hop in, hop out, get a quick workout in, and keep it simple for people. And I'm going to expand on this variability thing too.
Yep.
So we also have the Pro Strength line, which has much more adjustment. It's much more of a high-end boutique and unique style and design. And when we were designing this line, this is the same colors, so we can mix and match some of that high-end, unique customizability and adjustability of the Pro Strength line and backfill in with the Power Leverage version 2 a lot of your more standard machines. So you say, oh, I'm going to get the dynamic row from the Pro Strength line, and I also need a lat pull down that's basic, and I need a row that's basic. I can pull that from the Power Leverage line and kind of build out. So now you have the 31 machines of the Power Leverage version 2 on top of the 27 machines that are in the Pro Strength line that can match and mix and match and really say, hey, I want these boutique, very unique pieces. I want some good hardcore standard pieces from the Power Leverage, a couple of the unique pieces of the Power Leverage, that sort of thing. So now you can pull in, it's almost like having a 60-piece line.
Exactly. And then the thing about it is that this day and age, you really don't know what people want or can do, but it's a groundswell of people now starting to train with weights.
Yeah.
Because, they've been doing cardio for a long time, the simple treadmills, running outdoors, stair climbers, and that type of thing. But a lot of people are now gravitating toward the actual strength, because strength is the basis of your ability to do cardio. And I think that's what this line kind of offers, because there's so many variations of the machines you can do for your chest, your back, your legs, your calves. I mean, they're just an infinite, almost variability, especially by mixing and matching the machines. And of course, there's machines for a small facility, and there's machines for a large facility.
Correct.
And that's the whole idea, the variability that will set the tone for wanting to come back and try something different.
Indeed.
Rather than get stale, because when people stop going because I don't do the same old thing, same old circuit again. No, with that many pieces, I mean, you don't have to have that many pieces, but that in again, what you said, mixing and matching with some of the other stuff that we have, it eliminates that boredom factor right away. I actually look forward to going into the gym, and both of us train.
Yeah.
So the good thing about it is that we're just not sitting in a pulpit preaching to the choir.
Correct.
We're actually using this stuff, seeing how other people on our competitors' stuff. I go to a gym that has a lot of our competitors.
Sure.
And I'm looking at it and just saying, that doesn't seem right. Why isn't that right? Or I ask the people, I actually interview people while they're working out. What do you like about this thing? And they'll espouse that stuff. They don't lie at that point. They're bare naked type of exposure to the real truth of how these machines work. And that's what we're trying to achieve. And I think that's what we have achieved. Of course, you're always improving, but that is definitely the basis of what we're doing.
Sure. Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is, I grew up in Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting, and doing the strongman competitions. And I think a lot of what's happening right now and what we're seeing commercial gyms do is they're starting to reduce a lot of the cardio they have. Oh, we're going to do a few stair climbers, a few treadmills, a few rowers, and they're expanding that strength, specifically plate loaded, because people have gone through this phase of you know, the old school bodybuilding into the CrossFit. Now the CrossFit specialized out into a bunch of areas, and people are getting more back into that traditional kind of hardcore strength training.
Right.
Where I can hit a good chest day and I want to do my bench presses, my dumbbell bench presses, and then I want to specialize with, you know, my lateral chest press machine and my decline and my, again, I'm going to go back to the most muscular fly machine, which I think is super fun. And then so I think we're seeing a lot more gyms come around again to this heavy, like plate loaded weights, bars, dumbbells, strength section, and then the selectorized and a little bit of cardio. And we're seeing some evolution there.
And what people don't realize is that going back, dating myself, but going back to the old days when Joe Gold was around the Gold Gym, and he had a plethora of free weight benches, racks, and so forth. There weren't that many machines. I mean, there was a couple of companies around Universal and Paramount. They used to make a machine, but they were kind of like advanced form of free weight training. But a lot of people didn't like that because it's too grooved, and it balances a lot of benefit for training. You got to have balance, and that's the way your muscles work. You don't always have a rigid pattern that you do. That's some of the things that we have in the line, is that it's really variable in terms of what you're looking for, where you can train with it. We have multiple grips. I mean, it's really quite an advancement in and amongst itself. You know, way back when, back in, people probably maybe or maybe not realize this, and you go back because you're an old strength trainer for athletics, as was I. I played football at Notre Dame, but when I first got there was no weight room. There was a bunch of dumbbells and benches and barbells laying around, and his brother actually threw me out because he thought I wasn't big enough to be a football player. But that was in there. That was the deal. They didn't, until 2 years later, right before my senior year, they just started getting machines. They just started getting an advanced deal. So that was back, you're talking about the late 60s, 1970s. So it's been 50-some years since then, but that's where the advancements have come. Because people start getting into strength training. All of a sudden, there were strength coaches. All of a sudden, there was dietitians. It's become very much a scientific endeavor. So it's not just, okay, it feels good. Yeah, it does feel good. And there's a good return for your invested time. But realistically, things change. And that's why we had to change a little bit in our approach with we have with the power leverage.
Well, and some of it too is have that line be accessible to people of different sizes, different age groups, that sort of thing. And as you know, one of the long predictors of quality of life is being stronger.
Right.
I have stronger legs, stronger arms. Like, you're be able to be more active as as you age. If you're stronger, you're more active, you're more able to do stuff. And I think a lot of these pieces we have in the Power Leverage version 2 is accessible from, beginner to an advanced lifter or bodybuilder to, your older population looking to stay strong and functional as they, get later in years. And I think that's a good, breadth of people that have the option to use the equipment.
Right. And I think really one of the things that you bring up a good point, because back in the day, again, dating myself, women didn't believe in strength at all. You couldn't find a woman inside the muscle development part of the gym to save your soul. I mean, they were just not happening. But as the research came out, and as a test rat that I have, not to call her a rat, my own wife did not believe in it. I finally got her into weight training, and then she feels totally different. She's been doing it and stayed slim for 40 years, 50 years that we've been together.
Sure.
And it's not a short-term endeavor. It's a lifestyle.
Yes.
And I think that's the way people started treating it. Okay, what are we going to 3 times a week? Go to the gym.
Yeah, this is what we're doing.
There was only aerobics around. That just started. The whole aerobics trend just started then. That wasn't even anything until about the 70s. And that started to ramp up. And if I think for people, again, kind of got burned out on that, just saying, okay, I'm kind of not as strong as I thought, and I'm losing a little weight here, but how come I don't have a big muscles in my arms? How come my legs aren't shapely? There you go.
And that's
you
what it
needed
is.
Weight training.
Exactly.
And now people are realizing that this is a way of life. I mean, if you tell a teenage kid now, you got weight training, yeah,
they know what it is, and they get into it. Sure.
Tell somebody in their 70s and 80s, maybe not. I'm a living example, but I actually do believe in that the world has grasped this, not just the United States, but around globally. There's really starting to grasp it. And we're probably the leaders ourselves in this country, that's for sure.
Yeah, like especially with all the benefits of the strength training and everything. And then I think one of the final points we'll kind of drive home, and specifically with the Power Leverage version 2 line, that I think is kind of an approach to accessibility is, people start out and they just start working out and they're not ready to do some of the free weight stuff, either technique wise or just, generally physically. And I think, the Power Leverage version 2 is kind of like an entry level into like, okay, I can start hitting these and then walk into some of the free weights and mix the leverage with the free weight training as we go, as you're starting into it, so it's a good for a beginner. And then as you get through it, you can say, hey, as I get more advanced, I'm using these different machines to isolate and focus on different muscles compared to just the free weights. And it's a good combination. Talk about kind of walking in and using it as an entry level and then kind of as more of an advanced training.
Well, this is a very good point because in the old days, and this has changed quite a bit, you'd never see a woman in a
Yeah.
weight training area at all. They're just too intimidated by it.
Yep.
What we've come up with, and then we realize, hey, wait, women do want to train
Sure.
with weights. And they want to get a little bit more challenge. And why can't I do it? That guy's doing it.
Sure enough.
So good enough. So what we ended up doing is that we ended up getting a line. Power Leverage V2 is that you can kind of ease into doing even more free weights, whether it be squats, whether it be arm curls, whatever. I mean, on the free weights. But these are kind of a safe way to be introduced into that realm because there are a lot of benefits of it. And of course, with the way the designs of our machines work is that it simulates pre-weights quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not exactly right because you don't have the total balance factor that you have with a free bar or dumbbells, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
It certainly it gives you that transition to make not so intimidating anymore.
Well, and it gets you into like that initial muscle activation, and then you can progress into some other things, and then come back to it when you're more advanced.
Exactly.
And say, oh, I'm using this because I really feel, my lats or my chest or my quads or whatever it is I'm trying to do. I can really focus on these different areas. So you can kind of change it from a beginner to more advanced. And then I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's it. I think people like the feeling of accomplishment because they'll talk about, how much you do squat, how much you bench press. I mean, it's like, okay, but it's really not that. It's how do you feel?
Yeah.
I feel great after that weight workout. I mean, that's really a compliment, espoused type of thing from people who train with weights.
Sure.
They finally get it. Rather than say, why are you doing that? No.
Yeah.
Just try it. And then you'll see, like,
it's good. And I think a lot of people are really more buying into the whole, hey, I need to get stronger. I need to stay strong once I'm stronger. And that makes things a lot better in life.